Hi everyone, I'm Robbie Jenkins and this is Breaking Boundaries, a place where we take posing beyond the stage, and today I'm going to do a routine review of a routine that I did. It was the first group routine that I did when I worked with Greene and my friend Jacob Pomroy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going over my thought process. So when I first heard the songs, I'll talk about some of the lyrics and what I was thinking, and then I'll start playing the video. I'll pause it here and there as I go throughout the video and explain a little bit more in depth of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And hopefully the next time you go back, if you go back to watch this routine again, it'll make a little bit more sense and you'll kind of understand what we're doing throughout this video. So the song that I used was Bullet with Butterfly Wings. It was originally produced by Smashing Pumpkins, but then Tommy Profit did a really awesome rendition with it with a few lyric twists. So when the song opens up, you hear the lyrics, "The world is a vampire sent to drain. Secret destroyers hold you up to the flame. And what do I get for my pain? Betrayed desires and a piece of the game. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage." And then he goes on to say, "Tell me I'm the only one. Tell me there's no other one. Jesus was an only son for you. Tell me I'm the only one. Tell me there's no other one. Tell me I'm the only one for you." So when I heard this song, one of the beautiful things that I love about listening to music is you have the interpretation of the artist who wrote the song, but then with art, you can interpret it into so many ways. So when I first heard this song and I heard "The world is a vampire sent to drain, secret destroyers hold you up to the flame." When I heard this whole beginning part, I was thinking about our current society and then the boxes that our society puts us in. So as we grow up, we're first initially taught to dream and to dream big and to follow our hearts and follow our passions. And I'm sure, like me, many other people over time, the world starts to get really heavy on you and you forget this sense of passion that's supposed to drive you, and you start chasing success, and not success in the way that passion drives you to be successful, but success in the way that we have basically been pounded on us since we were young teenagers, young adults. And a lot of times success through whether social media or friends or family, mentors, whoever, a lot of times we begin to think of success as making a bunch of money. We think of success as having like the huge business. We think of success as all of these superficial things, and at some point along the way in our journey, we tend to forget about those things that we were passionate about, and we start chasing things that we think will get us all of these other things, when in reality, we start to lose our passion, and then we also get this really mixed why, because like the why is trying to be successful, but now we're no longer following our hearts. We're not following what our true desires are. Hence, what do I get for my pain? Betrayed desires, which is what I felt like he was talking about here for the piece of the game. And for me, the game was to be successful. So when I heard the song, I heard like this big battle of being just outraged, trying to be successful and feeling like we're constantly missing the mark. Having this internal struggle of what are we passionate about? What do we feel like we have that not only makes us feel fulfilled, but also gives us something that we're able to give and to share to others, to help inspire them to feel the same things about what they have, what they were born with, and what desires they were given, and how that they can chase those to just keep this cycle going. And for me, over time, that's become what success really is. There's times up and downs where I start getting mixed back up in the game again. But as I was listening to this song, I was going through a period in my life where I was relooking at everything I did and all of the choices that I made. And I felt like what he was talking about in this song. And it was like, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. So even though I'm frustrated about it and I'm angry, I still like am waging this war on myself between playing the game that society says we should be playing versus following my true passion, following my own desires, which ultimately could help me help not only myself, but a lot of other people. So when I sent Kai a text message and proposed this idea for the three of us, I explained it to him as, when we start this song out, I want you to start it. And the reason I wanted him to start it was if I were to take that whole scenario, broad scope, and put it into a smaller scope, which is like bodybuilding or artistic posing, I look at Kai as kind of the trailblazer for this. So we had a lot of stuff in the golden era. Posing was really beautiful. It fell away for a while. And you see Greene come back on stage, and not only does he have this beautiful artistic posing, it's insanely different. And we had conversations where he would tell me that even back then, stuff that he's now known for and what makes him legendary, he had all of these voices telling him to stop doing all that dumb shit, all of the dance shit. Like, it's stupid. This is bodybuilding. It's not this. But what did he do? He didn't listen. He followed what he knew to be true for himself and ignored everything else, ignored what his circumstances told him that he could be, ignored what society told him he could be, ignored what people told him his limitations were. So when we open up the song, it didn't make sense to have anybody else other than Greene start this out. So here we have Kai posing in his own fashion. So very much him, dressed very much as he would like to dress when he poses. And this is kind of like his life story, is what I see when I watch him pose. Is I hear the lyrics, I see him pose, and he's just trying to find himself through the whole entire journey.
Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in the cave. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cave.
Now, I want to take a minute to pause here because when we filmed this did not go all the way that we planned. So what I had in my head for this was we would film this at like a warehouse location, something kind of dark, with some lighting that would highlight us, but everything surrounding it would be just kind of this morbid, dark, boxed in kind of feel. And then what would happen was Kai would end on a pose, and whatever pose he ended on at the end of his choreography, we would fade it out, and then when we would fade it back in, Jacob would pick up basically where he left off. And that was supposed to present or represent basically the next generation of artists coming through. So in this, not only was this part in the song more fitting for Jacob's style of posing, which is a little bit more stoic and fluid, it also was, he was next. Like if we look at posing journeys and how long each of us had been posing, at this point, Jacob had been posing for years and I'd only been posing for 6 months. And Jacob was one of the people that were crucial in helping me keep going when I first started. So again, it made more sense, one, with his natural style, and then two, with just kind of the order of how this whole story unfolds, that he would be the second person up. So we didn't get to do that, but we basically would try to just pick up where the other person left off to tell our own individual story. As far as the choreography goes, every individual part, we all choreographed ourselves. And then we worked together pretty much equally when it comes to the group part later on. Now, it was kind of cool. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. If you go back and watch it, maybe you'll pick up on it. sometimes we do things and it's on purpose, and then sometimes we do things and we see it later and it looks like it was on purpose and it fits really well. But when Jacob did a couple poses, you hear them say "for you" and you hear it echo, and it almost kind of looks like he's going "for you" and then "for you," like he's pointing to multiple people that might be watching. I thought that was kind of cool. I actually don't know if he meant to do that, and I just noticed when he watched it, but I feel like I had to pause there for a second. Now, the song's getting ready to pick up, and the place that I was in my life at this point when I heard this song, I was fueled with a lot of frustration. I was basically at that point in time ditching everything about who I thought I was and trying to figure out who I actually was and what that actually meant. And I was rediscovering my own passions. So for me, in a lot of ways, I was living through this song pretty much present time, because I was on this journey, which I still am, of trying to ditch all of these things that society told me I needed to be successful, the path of which I need to take to be successful, and starting to try to find one that was my own, that doesn't make sense to a whole lot of people. The people that know me really well and they're seeing it and they're kind of watching it happen over the last few years, like they get it, they won't refute it at this point, but to like the outside eye, people will see my Instagram filled with random posing and all of this other stuff, and people are like, what is she doing? It's just something that I became passionate about, and so this is basically when I first really started leaning into posing. It really was on this trip. I loved it before, but it became something a lot bigger to me pretty much during and after this trip. The other thing too is I'm a very emotive poser. I put a lot of emotion into what I do because most of my routines are backed by emotional things that I'm going through, and it's the way I know how to express it best, more so than talking about it or whatever. So you start to see a lot of that in this part of the song, which is another reason why I took this part. All right, so two things. One, I get super tickled looking back at some of the stuff because I see a couple things that I'm doing and I'm like, it's not even really posing. But I was only 6 months into it, so I'm gonna give myself a little bit of slack. But there was a few things that I did there at the end and I'm like, I wish I would have fixed that. So in this part, all three of us come together. The first time we did this and we shot this, when we were figuring out choreography, this was really, really cool. We all came in together and it was kind of like watching a posing version of like Marvel, where you just see all the different characters come together, which was really neat. But what we did here is, even in this part, it was a very intentional setup. So I wanted Jacob and I be in the front together. So we've got Kai in the back, who's basically representing the spirit of art and spirit of passion, the spirit of basically freedom and following your heart and not doing the things that society tells you. And then you have Jacob and I, who are this next generation who's still trying to figure it out. So you have Kai in the background that's kind of shadowing us, while Jacob and I are doing a routine that you would typically see if you saw somebody doing pairs posing for guest posing or something like that. Very smooth, fluid, slow movements, classic-like movements, and we're mirroring each other. We're not really doing anything super different. We're not doing anything super out of the box. We're just mirroring each other. And I'll give Jacob a lot of credit for this part. There was a few accidental pieces that I wanted to put emphasis on, but at this point I cannot freestyle worth crap. And so basically when we started this choreography, Jacob just started freestyling and I just started following, and then it naturally came out. Now what we have Kai doing in the back is we didn't want him doing the same thing one of us were doing. We literally just told him, we're gonna hit some poses, hit your own personal version of that. So he would try to match up what he was doing to be kind of similar to what we were doing, but he was still doing it in his own way. So here we're signifying Jacob and I are doing something very in the box still, and then you've got Kai behind us kind of showing us, hey, still pulling out our strings, like our heartstrings, strings of the soul, whatever. That's like, you can still do stuff like this and do it in a way that's true to you. All right, so this part gets really cool. So you'll hear a gunshot. And when I heard the gunshot, I knew immediately what I wanted to see in this scene, what I wanted us to portray. It was basically Kai shooting us. And so in a sense, he's killing us, but he's killing the part of us that is still stuck wrestling with being inside the box. And so here you see Kai taking out basically 2 guns, and he's going to point it at the back of both of our heads. He's going to shoot us, and then Jacob and I do a final move together, and that kind of represents when the part of us that is chasing what we feel like we're supposed to chase because of what society's told us, because of what we think the judges want, because of what we think people on Instagram want to see or whatever. That's the last move that we do together. Then from there, what we basically did was we took a break that weekend. We all flew back to where we lived, and we just came up with our own part for the end. Did it however we wanted to do it. And then when we came back together, we just filmed it that way. We didn't try to see if things actually matched up. We didn't try to force anything. So in one part, it looks kind of chaotic, but what's happening is basically he's shooting us, and he's basically like, all right, I led this thing, I did my own thing, it's time for you guys to step outside of the box, step outside of your comfort zone, and do your own thing, and then in the spirit of art, we're going to do our own thing together. And so that's what gets represented by this last part. And so then you have it ending, and so then the song ends basically how each of us wants it to end, in one of our own poses, in our own style, in our own way. And so it basically just represents us ending the song in the way that we want it to end, not the way that we want everybody else to see it end. So this was my review of what I did with Kai Greene. Now you can kind of see inside of my head when I presented the concept to him, when we built it. It was one of my favorite things I've ever done, just bringing different people together. And it was a true group project. So not one person out of all of us headed the whole thing fully. It was really equally divided, whether it was our individual choreography, whether it was what we decided to do as a group, whether it was putting our heads together to figure out how to best put together the ending, and then just coming up with our own stuff and being ourselves, how we were at that point in time with where we were at. So I hope you guys like it. I hope this brings you some understanding, and I'll put a link in so that way you can go back to the original video on Kai's page, and then with having some backstory, maybe you'll spot some more things that you didn't see the first time.